First tonight, new details on our crisis in the classroom investigation. Jerry North, a Milton Union school custodian, this man here, charged with raping a child under the age of 10. That's according to court documents. And those same court documents, those allegations date all the way back to 2019 involving a student at the school. And tonight, we want to know, when did the district first learn of the accusations and what was done?
Now, Gwyneth Falloon's with me now. She's been following the story from the very beginning. You've been digging through court documents all day today. What did they tell you?
Right, Adam. So this is actually the motion that North's defense attorney filed to reduce his bond. Part of it says, quote, when these allegations were made several years ago, Mr. North's employer conducted an investigation and did not find that any disciplinary and or legal action against Mr. North was warranted.
Now, you mentioned the superintendent confirmed North's been an employee of the district since 2017. What else has the school said about these allegations?
They really haven't said anything else at all, Adam. I've reached out and I've been asking questions since May 4th. I've sent the superintendent 3 separate emails and also tried to speak with him in person twice. We even asked the superintendent today if it is even true that the district was notified years ago, and if so, why was it not reported to the police? He did not answer those questions, and he referred us to the district's attorney. However, I did speak with the West Milton Police Chief to ask if the district was ever notified of allegations. Within the last 5 years, he's been employed with the district for 5 years. Has the police department received any word that there was an ongoing investigation into Mr. North?
No.
Now, this all begs the question, are school districts obligated to report any assault accusations to authorities? We spoke with a local legal expert who tells me, yes, but there are some caveats. He says school employees are obligated to report allegations if they have reasonable cause to believe they are telling the truth.
It's all in context of what someone says occurs and whether that causes you reasonable cause to believe. So that's the crux. So a reasonable person would have to listen to what was said and say, oh, that gives me a belief that something might have happened. So you have to look at everything in the context of when it was received, how it was received, and what was going on during that time.
Now, the full story can be found on our website. That's Dayton247now.com. I'm going to continue to follow this story and bring you the latest information as soon as it becomes available. Back to you.
Gwen, thank you. And now we want to explain everything that led up to where we are right now in this investigation. So let's break it down. As Gwen explained, allegations of these offenses date all the way back to August of 2019, according to court documents. Police were not notified about the alleged incident until last month. That's what police tell us. That following day, police say they then notified the Milton Union School District about the allegations, and that's when North was placed on unpaid administrative leave. On May 2nd, North was arrested at his home. The following day, he pled not guilty to all charges, including rape. On May 4th, 2 days after his arrest and over a week after learning of the allegations, that's when the district released its first statement to the community and to us. Now, last Thursday, North was back in court after his attorney filed a motion to have his bond reduced. That request was denied. And of course, as Gwen mentioned, we will continue to follow this story as it develops. Of course, we'll alert you to any new information we get right here on air and online at Dayton247now.com. And of course, we'll also be providing updates through social media. So be sure to follow us on our Twitter page and like our Facebook page as well. Now, we do have a heartbreaking update tonight on the search for a missing Dayton woman. Lydia Bice is at the Now Desk. And Lydia, what have we learned?
That's right, Elise. Around 8:30 tonight, the Dayton Police Department took to Twitter saying that the silver alert for Penny Bodie has been canceled as she was tragically found deceased this evening. Now, the department says that they do not suspect foul play at this time, and in the department's tweet, they say, quote, "Our hearts go out to Miss Bodie's family."
At this point, Lydia, is there any word on where they found Bodie?
No, Dayton police have not released that information at this time, but she was last seen on Sunday around 9:15 p.m. along Campus Drive in Dayton. Here at Dayton 24/7 Now, our thoughts are with her family at this time. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you. Also, Piqua police confirming tonight the body of a missing woman was found in Shelby County. Investigators say 40-year-old Charlena O'Neill was found outside of Port Jefferson earlier today. Now, during the initial investigation of her disappearance, 43-year-old Julie Jenkins and 51-year-old Daniel King were arrested on drug possession and obstructing charges. It's not clear right now if they have anything to do with O'Neill's disappearance, though. Anyone with information is urged to call the Piqua Police Department. The number is right there on your screen. And in Darke County, one man is dead after a motorcycle crash. Versailles police say it happened last night on Jamison Road around 7. Investigators say at some point 32-year-old Matthew Monin went off the road there and into a ditch. Now, he was not wearing a helmet and was killed in the accident. The whole thing remains under investigation.
Tonight, Greene County is now fighting to keep funding and get funding to keep their domestic violence investigator on the force. Melena Brown explains why they are essential.
I'm told the center has been collaborating with law enforcement agencies for quite some time, and it's very important in covering all bases in a domestic violence situation. The money they are seeking is from the Office of Criminal Justice as a part of the Violence Against Women Act grant, and it allows a detective to continue to work along the center.
The collaboration is important, it's essential, and systems understand we can't function in silos. We have to reach across, and we know that survivors have been in those spaces, so we must be in those spaces together.
If you or someone you know is in a domestic or sexual violence situation, you can reach out to their 24-hour crisis hotline at 937-426-2334 or text 937-347-5917.
Well, Dayton police taking to Twitter and issuing a warning after an incident at a crime scene last night that we told you about. Take a look at this dash camera video. Police say that while they were investigating a shooting on Philadelphia, a car drove past the cruisers with flashing lights through the taped off area. Officers say it's obviously extremely dangerous for officers and even the driver. It can also compromise the scene if evidence is run over. Now, the department says if you see police with the tape, do not go through that scene.
Meanwhile, Fairborn Police will be swearing in a new police chief this week. Captain Ben Roman will be sworn in Friday morning by City Manager Rob Anderson. Roman was hired as an officer for Fairborn back in 2004. He was then promoted to sergeant in 2016 before being promoted to captain in 2020. Now, the swearing-in ceremony will be held at 9 a.m. in the morning, in the City Council chambers.
What a beautiful day here in the Miami Valley, but you might have noticed if you walked outside, it has cooled off considerably, and in some places it sounds like it's going to get really cold.
Yeah, we get dropped down into the 50s, but I mean, it's going to be in the 40s tonight. We're talking maybe even frost in some locations with a frost advisory in place.
How about that?
How about that? But temperatures started today at 50 degrees, climbed all the way up to 68. Our average for this time of year is 74, so we were well below our average for both standards. But like I said, frost advisory is in place for two of our northern counties up towards Bell Fountain and Wapakoneta. We could see some frost forming. We're expecting temperatures in these locations to be in the mid to upper 30s, which again could bring us that chance for some frost. So if you have some plants or anything outside that could get damaged, you want to cover them up or bring them inside. But the good thing is we do have warmer weather on the way. Well, we've been seeing warmer weather, the cold nights and then the warm days, typical of spring. But this is going to continue. Our average high of 74, which actually jumps up to 75 tomorrow. You can see we're going to kind of straddle that line right there, jumping just above or just below it. And then as we head towards next week, in the middle to end of next week, is when we start to see those temperatures break that 80-degree threshold and maybe even start seeing some very above normal temperatures in the mid to upper 80s.
We want to give you a live look right now at downtown Dayton through our EcoPlumber Skycam. This comes as a first hearing was held tonight for an expanded designated outdoor refreshment area, or DORA, throughout downtown Dayton. Now, currently the DORA program is only in the Oregon District. It allows people to purchase alcoholic drinks in a designated cup and carry them in a defined area. Boundaries of the proposed DORA would be to the river to the north, Wilkinson Street to the west, and Kiowee and Webster Streets to the east, along with some possible spots from 5th Street to 6th Street and even Washington Street as well. Now, many are hoping to get this project going sooner rather than later.
It is my hope and my belief that we can start moving aggressively. They've already started the work in terms of the sign designation and identifying where those locations will be, as well as purchasing the additional trash receptacles, the additional 35, and then making sure that we, again, have those good neighbor agreements that are in place.
Now, the next reading for the DORA will take place next Wednesday, and if it passes, it would then move on to a different approval process through the state of Ohio.
National nonprofit walking through Dayton to honor and remember our fallen first responders and military members. Carry the Loads hopes to keep the memory of fallen heroes alive.
Our mission is to get people actively involved and keep the memory alive of fallen first responders and military. So we get them out walking, we do biking routes, and just get them to tell their stories and hear their stories along the way.
Now, the relay passed through Fairborn Fire Stations, Wright State University's police headquarters, and the Dayton National Cemetery. Dayton has stopped 84 of nearly 200, so there's still a long way to go. This year's route covers 48 states and 20,000 miles. There are some tough questions coming from Columbus families and community leaders tonight. That's after the city council's move to pour $500,000 into security upgrades in the Short North and downtown areas. The move to cut those big checks coming a week after a wild morning of violence in the Short North.
Now, the questions for some is, how was the city able to act so quickly, and is the same going to be done in other neighborhoods? Rodney Dunnigan laying out the concern.
It's no secret the Short North is a city hotspot, from hotels to restaurants and retail. Recent crime and violence giving the city somewhat of a black eye. But there are other neighborhoods that have seen issues, and the people who live in those communities are looking for a bit of love and attention as well. Brenda Johnson knows the pain and heartache of violence all too well. Her son James shot and killed in their Hilltop neighborhood. His murder still unsolved. That's why she was quite frankly disturbed learning the city was pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Short North following a string of violence there.
It was like a smack in the face, because that just means to me that Hilltop and Linden doesn't really matter to them.
Councilman Emmanuel Remy stressing to us city leaders are focused on neighborhoods across the city.
This is a community fight. It's not just us down at City Hall. It's all of us working together to make sure that we solve this problem.
Treat us all equal, not just by our area code. We all matter.
Columbus city leaders also maintain that the timing of the Short North security funding is purely coincidence, pointing to a similar spending plan last year. Those in communities from the Hilltop to Linden and Wedgwood certainly following it all very closely. Rodney Dunnigan reporting.
And a Dayton teen with a long road to recovery finally paying off. We're going to hear her story coming up next.
The ATF is dedicated to fighting crime, the special sidekick they now have to help put criminals behind bars.
And we've had some spring-like weather, but that does include rain, and we have some on the way. I'll time it all out for you after the break. Here's a look at your Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
We're learning tonight cardiac arrest is now the #1 cause of death among student athletes. And as we learned from Buffalo Bill's Damar Hamlin, those deaths are preventable. And as Luke Jones explains, a Dayton girl knows all too well how an AED can save a life.
Applause for a young woman who survived not a near-death experience, but 3 actual deaths.
And I'm there while she dies a 3rd time.
It began with a heart attack March 7th. Ebony Sherwood collapsed at track practice at Stebbins High School in Dayton. School staff resuscitated her. With a clot in her lungs and arteries, she then went to 2 different hospitals before coming here to UC Medical Center.
She died again. We recognized at that time what we needed was time.
They put her on short-term life support, then decided she needed an emergency heart transplant, a procedure so rare for an active 18-year-old, her doctors say it felt more fiction than real life.
If you had written this into a Grey's Anatomy episode, I would have just stomped and said, it's not possible.
In Cincinnati, I'm Luke Jones.
Now, a bill in Ohio would require all schools to have AEDs. Kentucky just approved a law mandating them for middle and high schools, and that Kentucky law will take effect at the start of the 2025-2026 school year. Doctors say they're studying Ebony's old heart to figure out what went wrong.
Crystal clear skies, not a cloud out there right now. Looking here, literally nothing. And as we pull out, we do have some clouds and rain down towards the Carolinas and Georgia and whatnot. A little bit off to the west, out towards west of Omaha in Denver, seeing a few thunderstorms and showers out there. Now, moving through time, you can expect clear conditions through the day tomorrow. Thursday looking very, very, very nice. And then as we move through the night on Thursday and into the day Friday, we could start with a few clouds across the region and then maybe a few isolated showers Friday afternoon and evening ahead of a cold front that's moving through. Now, this cold front will reach us in the early morning hours, dropping some heavier rainfalls. We could see a few embedded thunderstorms, but not really expecting anything in the way of severe weather. And the good news is this system moves out of here very quickly, and we're looking to see a nice Saturday for the rest of your day. And as spring feels more like summer, our Dayton 24/7 Now weather team is wrapping up Team Tornado visits for the season. Today, our chief meteorologist, Natalie Walters, stopped by Fairborn Intermediate School to talk about severe weather safety, what we do as meteorologists, and how to find your safe spot.
It's in a hallway because our bathroom has a window and we don't have a basement.
You don't want to die from a tornado because of it's high speeds.
Because it has high winds. Yeah.
Team Tornado wraps up this Friday with the last couple visits. We always have a great time doing this, and I'm pretty sure the kids do too.
Tim, Natalie, and Nick do such a great job with that. Well, a story from our partners at the Dayton Business Journal now. An up-and-coming entertainment district in Huber Heights set to grow several acres near the Heights, anchored by the Rose Music Center, and it will soon become part of the entertainment district. Warp Ring Brewery is joining, and it will be opening soon. It includes a main tap room and outdoor beer garden. The brewery has existing locations in Springboro, Dayton, and Mason. And if you'd like to read more about it, you can go to our Dayton247now.com. That story and others like it, you can find it under the Dayton Business Journal heading in the News tab. The ATF is dedicated to fighting violent crime, whether that's tracking down a murder weapon or a suspect or just dismantling an explosive device. Agents have one very special tool to help them combat the bad guys. As Cassie Arsenault shows us, this particular sidekick goes beyond an agent's human capabilities to track down the evidence.
There's no one more dedicated to the work. 4-year-old Hilton is training 24/7. In fact, it's the only way she gets to eat.
Good girl. Hey, son. Yum, 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 yum.
This duo, Agent Dave McMullen and Hilton, are inseparable. Hilton is like the professional athlete of dogs. She stays within 5% of her target weight, eating healthy salmon-based dog food and taking supplements. ATF agents selected her out of 300 dogs, then put her through close to 30 weeks of intense training. And every year she has to be recertified. Her secret weapon? Its smell. This year alone, with Dave's guidance, Hilton has found 100 shell casings and 10 guns left behind at crime scenes. One of her star-studded moments is when she found the evidence to prosecute a felon who assaulted someone with a gun and then ditched the weapon.
And then I was able to deploy Hilton. I sent her off lead through a wooded area. It was in the middle of winter at night, and the person lifted up a mattress underneath an old tire and hid the gun in there, so it was completely hidden. We would have never found it, and she found it, I would say, within 5 minutes.
It has to be harder to prosecute people if you don't have the weapon to go with it.
In that case, particularly, there wouldn't have been enough evidence, so Hilton really helped solve that case.
Now, the ATF retires dogs at 10 years old. While the animals could perform longer, the agency makes them quit out of respect for their quality of life. All right, here is a live look from downtown Troy through our Troy traffic camera. Meteorologist Tim Boyd in for Natalie tonight with a first look.
Yeah, we're getting really chilly out here right now. You know, really nice night, clear conditions, but temperatures are rapidly dropping across the region. 49 now in Dayton, 46 out towards Richmond and Wapakoneta, and 50 down towards Urbana and Wilmington still. These temperatures will continue to drop tonight to right around 40 degrees and then into the upper 30s for some of us. 13 degrees colder in Wapakoneta right now than it was this time yesterday. 8 degrees colder in Dayton and 9 degrees colder in Greenville. And like I said, this is going to continue, but the good thing is it won't stay cold. We're going to have temperatures rise back up to where they're supposed to be, just above that actually. Our normal highs 74. We're going to get up to the upper 70s on Thursday, close to the 80-degree mark with plenty of sunshine, teetering that average line for the couple of days after that. Temperatures just above or just below our average of 74 degrees.
Tim, thanks. Back and forth arguments over the debt ceiling raging on. How Democrats, they're changing their tune a bit as talks continue.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now. Let's give you a live look tonight outside the Capitol building as the back and forth between President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy over the debt ceiling continues. The Republicans are holding the president's feet to the fire tonight as that deadline to a default nears. After noting some progress was made during yesterday's meeting on the debt limit, McCarthy is now blasting Biden's trip to Asia. Biden announced yesterday plans to cut that visit short, citing debt talks.
Mr. President, stop hiding. Stop traveling somewhere else. America wants an American president focused on American problems, finding American solutions.
We're going to continue these discussions with congressional leaders in the coming days until we reach an agreement. As it stands now, the intention is to go to the G7, be back here on Sunday.
Now, the president is skipping 2 stops on his annual trip, meaning he will visit only Japan on the shortened trip.
Now, as the talks continue, gone are calls for a clean debt limit extension. Democrats changing their tune a little, at least in regards to how they talk about the Republicans' handling of the limit. They're moving away from painting the GOP as hostage takers. Here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer yesterday after meeting with the president and others.
We don't have much time, but default is just the worst alternative. And having a bipartisan bill in both chambers is the only way we're going to avoid default.
Now, the president has handpicked those he trusts most to negotiate with House Republicans on a way forward. He laid out red lines, including no peeling back the IRA or social programs like Medicare, but also made concessions, saying he's now open to some spending caps, though many in the GOP have said that they will back the House Speaker's decision.
So I'm hopeful the president's team will join House Republicans to produce a responsible spending agreement to raise the debt ceiling. And I'll continue to support Speaker McCarthy 100%.
Both sides have until June 1st to hammer out a deal.
A Miamisburg restaurant is marking its 1-year anniversary by trying to break a world record. Up next, we're going to tell you we just told you how big that massive sandwich is, and if they were successful in making the world's largest cheesesteak. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.